Alrighty, welcome to another edition of the Patterson Report podcast. I'm Brandon. That's Ryan. We're upping the production value week by week here. We figured if we've been doing this for, I think coming up on 3 years, we should probably start having some of the hallmarks of any good podcast, like, an intro.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely. We'll up it. We'll up it as we go. It'll look nice in about a month or so. We'll get get the hang of it. So
we're getting better with Canva as time goes on. Another team, another set of individuals getting better as time goes on. Overall, have been our beloved Philadelphia Phillies. If you're watching tonight's game, not necessarily at the moment, but overall, this team has gone from flirting with the 3 seed in the East to being. I know we're still tops in the NL. I'm unsure after tonight's loss where we stand in the overall MLB rankings. I know the Yankees were on our heels at one point. So we'll get to, and the Tigers are on our ass. Yeah, shout out to Tarek Skubal and the boys. But we'll get to the good because most of the Philly stuff is good, borderline great. I do want to address just a feeling that I get that I want to see how you and I turned live commenting on. So anybody on Twitter who's watching, X, whatever you want to call it, who's watching, I believe if you comment now to pop up on the show. I want to get some opinions on Zach Wheeler because obviously he's spectacular, and I think every year, the last 3 years, he's had a real shot at a Cy Young season. When he has these bad games, I don't worry about Zach Wheeler. I know he's going to be fine. I'm disappointed or afraid of the fact that oh no, this start might cost him the 2025 Cy Young. It's not about the team. I know we'll be fine. I know he'll win us a ton of games. It's I'm watching him implode on one game. I'm that could cost him. Some of the guys are pitching. This one game could ruin the Cy Young campaign. Is that am I too invested in this team, or do you also kind of get that feeling where you see guys maybe cost themselves an award and it feels like you did it?
I mean, it comes up from time to time. You see it with Bryce. I know Shohei is just a different animal, so you can't really equate that to a Cy Young with Zach Wheeler when, him, Skeens, and Chris Sale are kind of in the same ballpark last season. So it's different, but I get it. One bad start and, the Cy Young go to somebody else. I mean, we've seen everyone have bad starts thus far. So I think right now in the driver's seat, I don't even think it's Zach Wheeler in the driver's seat right now. I think it's Luzardo.
Might be Luzardo.
I think he's eventually going to, come back down to earth a little bit. But man, oh man, I think it's his award right now, but I think Wheeler's going to overtake him. And then, of course, they're going to end up giving it to Chris Sale because –
yeah. Well, I mean, that's bullshit because Chris Sale got it last year and I don't think he deserved it.
He got scratched in that playoff start. I remember this. He got scratched in the playoff start against the Brewers because of a sore back or something after he pitched for the Cy Young a couple days ago, I'm pretty sure. And
he missed I think he missed the month of August when Zach pitched through that. So I thought last year was that's kind of the feeling is Zach's been a Cy Young favorite, Cy Young eligible now for feels like the last 3-4 seasons with the Phils, and you just know the ball's coming at some point, and you never know when it's going to be. So you want him to get one, and I feel the same way about the team. The Phillies have not wasted, squandered maybe is a better word. One of the all-time runs a Phillies pitcher's ever had. I mean, since Doc left, there hasn't been a pitcher more dominant in a Phillies uniform than Zach Wheeler. And it just feels like you've already blown 4 spectacular Wheeler seasons. Now, you're top of the NL right now, so, this team is a World Series contender at 6, believe it or not. Where you just, I don't know. You're running out of time eventually. And I want to see him get a Cy Young. I want to see the Phillies win a title. And every time something gets in the way, it's just kind of we don't have time to waste.
Yeah, we certainly don't have time to waste. This window is coming to a close. We've talked about it multiple times on this show. I mean, who knows if Schwarber's going to come back? I think it's blank check time, but we've been pretty adamant about that as well. But these guys are getting older. We're not trading the young guys. The prospect farm is still there. We had the Athletic released a piece. We have 4 players in the top 50. So the future is still bright for this team after this window of stars. But man, to have Bryce and Trey and all these guys go out without a title, it's devastating.
Yeah, and you brought up, a point worth mentioning, and I promise, I know the first 5 minutes of this have been bleaker for a team that is top in the NL. We're going to get to the good stuff. I promise, this team is playing really well. We're going to address it. But another, scary thing for Phillies fans is the Schwarber situation. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because it's a contract year. I think fans would have liked to have locked Kyle up prior to this season. Obviously, he's gotten better and better each year, especially with the batting average. He came to the Phillies as a slugger. I think was it his second year? He hit sub 200 on the season, but like 40 bombs. So it worked out. I mean, now he's hitting bombs. He's batting for average. He's hitting right. He's hitting left. He's drawing walks. He's kind of become a complete hitter in a year where the Phillies are kind of at the mercy of the open market on whether or not they're going to be able to keep him. So I guess it's not really a question, but it's kind of, is Schwarber in true blank check territory?
I think you have to be. I mean, with where we are as a team, you got 3 to 4 years left of this window being title contention. It feels like maybe even shorter. Give him 3 years, whatever he wants. It's you just have to do it. You have to open the checkbook for a guy that, if he leaves, a lot of fans are going to turn on the team. I mean, he's special to this place. He's up there with Bryce. I don't think he's more important than Bryce, but he's
in the clubhouse. I think they're close.
In the clubhouse, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just, how do you manage piecing together these windows? And Dombrowski thinks the run's over. I mean, the Phillies haven't done what the Dodgers have in deferring money. So you could defer some of Schwarber's money into the future and try to prolong this window a little bit, because the Dodgers ain't going to get any easier. The Padres are building themselves back up. The Braves and the Mets are, of course, always there. And then the Cubs have looked absolutely incredible this season. So it's one of those things where I would love to keep Kyle Schwarber, but I'm not convinced it's happening at this point. Like, my heart says like, oh, okay, he's a Philly for the rest of his career, but my head's like, is Dombrowski really going to front the money? I mean, he always has, but or not Dombrowski, Middleton. Is he going to front the money for a player like Schwarber who's aging, who's still incredible at the dish, though?
And that's what's interesting is I don't think the money's necessarily the problem. What's concerning to me a little bit is I'm kind of the opinion, if they were going to do it, why haven't they? Dombrowski's overall a good GM. John Middleton's a very aggressive and smart owner. They're watching the price tag go up. And I don't necessarily think Kyle Schwarber's in a phase in his career where money is everything. I think he's been to the mountaintop. I think he'll only go to a team that could bring him back there. He knows he's beloved in Philly. So I think there's motivation on his end to finish things out here. He's building something of a legacy for himself as a Philly. So I think what worries me is if it was going to get done, why hasn't it yet? Kind of is the thing.
Yeah, I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, it's truly puzzling at this point, because they should already have this done, signed, sealed, delivered. Schwarber should be the Philly for the next 3 to 4 years, and that's that. But there's some harsh realities that this team is going to have to face, it feels like, with all the people that they're paying right now. And then, of course, you still have Luzardo coming up as a free agent. They're going to want him back. Who knows what they're going to do with Ranger?
He's got one more year of team control.
He's got one more year, but the contract's coming up. And with how he's pitching right now, that's going to be big money too. So,
well, that's the other thing. I mean, and I think this one's a little bit more cut and dry. But as beloved as Kyle Schwarber is around here, not that far behind him is Ranger Suarez. I mean, talk about being a team guy, right? Like, all he's ever known as the Phillies since he's been a teenager. Was brought up as a bullpen piece, popped into the starting lineup, then put back in the bullpen during that first playoff run, performed incredibly. He had his like Brad Lidge and Chooch moment when they, I believe it was when they beat the Padres. He got that save. Then all he does after that is come back, orchestrate a damn near Cy Young campaign before he gets hurt. And this year, as soon as he came back from injury, one bad start, he's had like a 1 ERA since that start. And I'm saying all of this because I'm talking about a guy that might not be a Philly after the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, we have to focus our pitching. There's too much pitching. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's never a bad thing. It's a fantastic thing, especially with how our bullpen is after losing Alvarado for the postseason and, most of this season. So, I mean, is it Ranger in the pen time? I think you could trade him for bullpen help that's designed. Maybe, I mean, he wasn't floated around the Mason Miller deal. I don't know if you saw that, the rumored trade. It was Bohm, Crawford, and I believe it was Abel. I would do that in a heartbeat. No offense to Alec Bohm. Love the guy, but
you would do Abel?
Yeah, Mason Miller is that guy. So
he goddamn better be.
Yeah, I don't think that trade. They declined the trade, so we don't have to worry about it. They might revisit it. They want to put butts in seats in Vegas. That's a whole nother story. So
philosophically, I'm not a believer in giving up the farm for a closer, and I only say that because there are very few closers who year in year out are sensational. Who was the guy for Cleveland?
Clase?
Yeah, I mean, look, 1 year, everyone's like, holy shit, this is the second coming of Mariano Rivera. And then the next season, the wheels come off.
It happens to a lot of closers. I understand your point, and Mason Miller, when he gets hit, the ball goes very far. We saw that with Max Kepler the other night.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't necessarily trust this bullpen in the postseason, but I also don't want to give up our pitching surplus because if you move these guys to the pen and pull them out of the pen, it could provide some stability and let those other guys like Kerkering, Strom, and Romano, who's been very good as of late, rest.
Yeah, Romano's been really, really good, and it was a big win this afternoon. God, he makes you nervous. He gets the job done, but by God, does he make you nervous?
I think the rust is starting to shake off. I think. Yeah. At least myself was too critical of him early on. It was a big injury that he was coming back from. Yeah, he didn't look great. Yeah, it looked like panic mode, but now he's settling in. We still have the best record in baseball. There's still 2/3 of the season to go. So my faith is back in Jordan Romano, and I think Dombrowski did an excellent job with his moves this offseason with what the hand he was dealt. I think Kepler's been pretty decent as well.
Yeah, Kepler's been all right. What's up, Dalton? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Kepler's been overall all right for what we're paying him. I don't know if you've seen Austin Hayes is absolutely raking this season, but there's no justice in baseball. But I think you're right. For the bullpen, he did the best that he could. I would have liked to have seen one more arm added, possibly. Because I still think we're asking the most out of the most possible out of Kerkering. We're asking him to be a high leverage guy. He's coming in with a dirty inning pretty often, and I love Kerkering. I think he's got nasty stuff. I think he's only going to get better, but he wasn't supposed to be a high leverage guy this year. He's being forced to be a high leverage guy, and it's just not where he's comfortable right now. So I would have liked to have seen one more guy to kind of offset Kirkering. I realize that no one can see Alvarado getting suspended for half the year. That's not on Dave, but I think one more bullpen signing would have been nice, and maybe get that at the deadline. I'm more of a believer in a bullpen rental. I think you buy low, you don't give up the farm, you get a half a season out of a bullpen guy, and just reevaluate the offseason.
It's so tough because bullpen guys are at such a premium. I mean, what we traded for last year, Estevez, he costed a ton. Looking back at it,
yeah.
And of course, he went to Kansas City, and now he's dealing. Hoffman was pretty decent in Toronto for a while. They didn't want to give him that third year. It's tough to predict relievers. It looked a lot better. The sun looked a lot brighter when we had Alvarado in the bullpen, and now we don't. It's just teams know that, hey, the Phillies are on a World Series run. The window's open. They have a top-heavy farm system. Let's try to poach one of these top guys for one of our top relievers. And I'm not about that. So it'll be interesting to see the approach they take come the deadline. We still got a lot of time left.
Yeah. I do see your point because we overpaid last year for what we got. I'm just looking at, Mick Abel just came up and absolutely dealt at the major league level. And I realize it's one start and it was against the Pirates team that's been pretty bad. But it was still extremely encouraging. The stuff looked really good. And I just think everybody is so absolutely, definitely certain that Andrew Painter is going to be this stud. And God, I hope he is. But I don't like the idea of getting rid of the guy that we can use to kind of hedge our bets in the farm system and put all of our eggs in the Painter basket, because then you're living in a world which still isn't that bad. But let's say you do that deal and you send Abel out. We already know we're probably not going to be able to re-sign Suarez. He might also go at the deadline. Then next year, if Painter doesn't pay off, you have a hole at the 5, when just a year prior, you were too deep at pitcher.
It's very interesting how Dombrowski and company are going to play this. It's risky, but with what you have at starting pitcher right now, I think you might have to risk it and hope that that Nola returns to form, and then the other 3 guys are going to keep shoving like they are. It's just, do you want to? It feels like a little bit of a waste of a year in the middle of the window if they don't go out and make a splash move for a bullpen arm, which, like we've said, is going to be very expensive no matter who it is, because everyone can always use extra bullpen help. So all the contenders are in the market for it, even the Dodgers, even though they defer everything until 2035. They'll be in play. They have a strong farm system as well, so they'll be in play for the top guys as well and likely drive the cost of a trade up. So it's interesting, but I think we need 1 or 2 more arms, and it's going to be costly.
Well, I do agree it's going to be costly, and I would argue that having to move off of Suarez is as expensive as I'd be comfortable going. I mean, I get the idea. I know the idea with prospects that you're getting a guy who's on a rookie deal, he's young, you're hoping he turns into something. But similarly, I mean, Ranger Suarez is one of the best postseason pitchers in in the Cy Young era, since they've been
the second one, Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, so you're getting a guy who, if let's say you're a bubble team who might want to push their chips to the middle, you're getting a guy who's going to be a front end of the rotation playoff stud for you. I would argue, or I would hope, that is worth a mid to top end, 2 mids or 1 top end bullpen arm. Anything that includes a deadline that for me that includes Ranger end is a dangerous overpay.
Yeah, we'll talk about the deadline more when we get there. It does feel like a dangerous overpay. I'd love to have Ranger on the roster. I feel like he's the guy that, Ranger's not a defer the money kind of guy but I would love to have him back next year and beyond. He's just been so solid when he's been healthy. But man, it's tough to pay all these guys. I mean, you're paying Nola, you're paying Wheeler, you're paying Sanchez on a very team friendly contract. I won't throw that one in there. But you're gonna have to pay Luzardo a hefty amount for, and you can't pay 5 guys. So, well, 4 technically.
Looking back at the Nola deal, you do it every time. But in the moment, slam dunk, and you pay the hometown guy. He's been, he was your first ace since that, since Cole left. But with 2020 goggles on, it's like, man, we might have paid the wrong guy. To give that money, to be able to give that money to Luzardo would be enormous. To be able to split it between Luzardo and Ranger, like I said, again, I'm not saying it was the wrong move. You do it 10 out of 10 times. It was an easy call. But looking back on it, it's kind of rough.
I think that they'll sort it out. You can't not keep Luzardo. You can't let him walk. That'd be
you find a way to pay him.
You find a way to pay him, and you try to bring back Ranger. Maybe it's so tough with the second tax apron and everything. I know it's the NBA, but there's a tax apron as well for MLB, and you can't go over that. I say start deferring some money. I mean, look across the parking lot, look in Los Angeles, start deferring some cash.
You're also going to free up some cash because it's kind of assumed, although I think unfairly, because he's been a really good Philly. It's assumed that the Castellanos contract is going to come off the books. Watching now, there's a better chance than there was before the season that the Real Muto money comes off the books because he's been god awful this season. So those 2 contracts, in theory, coming off would free up. I don't know what their annuals are, but let's say roughly $50 million between them. That they're both on give or take $100 million deals. That starts to give you a little bit of breathing room to pay comfortably one of those guys, and then bleed over a little bit into second. But then you also got to address the out. They're in a predicament. The window, the easy window has closed.
We're too gloomy here. It feels.
It feels like things are going great. These are good problems to have if we're talking about how many stars that we have to pay.
I mean, you look at other places where they don't have this kind of talent depth, and they're rolling out a 5th starter who allows 4 to 5 runs every game. The Phillies don't have that.
No.
I mean, rotations, most of the rotations are weak in baseball. I mean, the Dodgers are right now due to injury, but they're the other one that would be up there with the Phillies, that they just don't allow runs all that often. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen. We have great problems for our franchise. We want to double down on that. This is not a bad problem to have. They are all incredible baseball players that we're debating about. It's just you can't have everything unless you're Howie Roseman, then you can. But like even he can't have everything. So
well, I don't want to get you. Ryan and I talked about this off air.
Yeah, I talked about this off. I'm just saying.
No. I'm going to do it now. I'm not talking about you doing it. I'm going to touch on it, and then we're going to immediately veer away from it. But to your point about Howie not getting everything he wants anymore, I'm sure you saw the reports where the league is looking to step in on that.
That's crazy. I can't believe it. I saw a little bit on Bird's Huddle I was watching the other night. So it's ridiculous. We'll talk about it in greater detail later. It's a July, August thing when they start talking about it again. We'll talk about it then.
Yeah. But a guy who I think similar to Nick Castellanos, because I think it's popular to hate on Nick Castellanos, even though, save for a couple bad months throughout a 4-year career, has been a very, very good Philly. Definitely on the field, but also off. Another guy who falls into that category, especially this year, is Trey Turner. If you're somebody who doesn't watch the team very often and you want to fit in, you're going to wait for a bad Trey Turner game and pile it. It's just easy. It's what it is. Trey Turner's been sensational this year. He's hitting over 300. He's hitting for power. The defense has been better for Trey Turner. He's not a good defensive shortstop. I get that. But he's been pretty much exactly what we expected to get this year. And it couldn't have come at a better time in a season where it took Bryce really until the last 3 weeks or so to really get cooking. Trey was kind of that guy, to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, him and Schwarber have been carrying the load on offense, it feels like, while Bryce is heating up and, these other pieces are getting going. And then Mudo gets in the lineup every so often. I always look at his batting average when he steps in. It's like 330. It's ridiculous.
Edmundo rakes. Bohm has been hitting over 300 in the month of May, so he might be figuring some things out.
I think this team's going to get hot. The weather's getting warmer. The ball's going to fly further in Citizens Bank Park. We have the pitching to keep it in the yard. I like our odds. I mean, and especially when you have that crowd turning out every other game, it feels like that. Yeah. I mean, for the Brave series, they're always ridiculous.
Every day is October in Philadelphia. You can't tell whether it's a businessman special on a Thursday afternoon or it's Game 5 of the NLDS. I mean, that place just brings the heat every single time. And this team's given them a reason. We talked about this previously, where I was kind of the opinion that, the Phillies were getting into, getting into Sixers territory. And I think we saw bits and pieces of that when, Romano would implode and you heard the boos raining down and stuff like that. But that's a thing of the past. This fan base is completely bought in. You're selling the place out most days. Team's getting hot. Even Brandon Marsh, who's been pretty god-awful most of the year, has kind of picked things up starting in May. So you're looking around trying to find a weakness. Now, Stott has cooled off, but he got off to a torrid start, so I think he'll find the middle again. Other than center field, which we knew all season was going to be a problem, this team is pretty well-rounded.
Yeah, I don't think you need to shake up the roster on that side at all. I think you roll with what you got. There's no obvious trade candidates. We've talked about Lou Bob a couple months back. He's been
terrible.
He's been abysmal. The White Sox have been doing better than I thought. That's besides the point. It's just there's nothing to really add. The guys that we talked about inked long-term deals with their franchises, so they're no longer on the table. I think it's bullpen. You roll this lineup the rest of the way. You figure out Rojas, Marsh. They've both been better than expected in my eyes, at least thus far. So, and Kepler's been a good bat addition. So it's just leave the offense how it is. You got to trust the big bats. Hopefully they don't cool off like the bad
they had the last couple of years
where they just hit the wall at the wrong time.
Yeah, but you're right. It's a philosophical shift. So if you're trying to fix that problem, you'd have to retool the team, which is just not feasible. So you roll with your bats. I think
seen
you're right.
Cedric Mullins brought up a couple of times. I don't know how you think about that.
Spare me Cedric Mullins. He was really good 4 or 5 seasons ago. He has not been that guy. And this year he's been horrible. Last year he started to slide. He hasn't really been that guy in 3 seasons. I get the allure because at one point when the Orioles are bad, Cedric Mullins was this shining light. But it's just not reality. He's marginally better than Brandon Marsh. The metrics say he's a better fielder. I think it's closer to a push. And at the plate, they're both streaky at best.
Yeah, I would rather stay away from him. I mean, he was great. Maybe he could re-unlock that in Philadelphia, around a stronger lineup, but he hasn't been the best this season. And, the Orioles are suffering because of that. So maybe you might be able to trade for him relatively.
If it's a fire sale, if the O's are looking to just retool, I would steal them.
Bullpen arms back.
Yeah. You know what? They haven't been real good. Sir Anthony got off to a torrid start. He's cooled off significantly, but you know what? Hey, still give me back Sir Anthony and Soto. They're better than Ruiz and Hernandez and Joe Ross. And, we'll ride with 5 shaky bullpen arms who, when great, are unhittable. The odds are one of them's going to be good most nights.
Yeah, it'd be nice to welcome them back. I kind of think it'd be kind of, it'd feel like the old times again. And I think Sir Anthony's been, oh no, he cooled off. You're right. Yeah, I remember looking at a Savant page and it was all red, and that's really good.
Yeah,
But
he started off really hot and then he got very cold. But that's always been Sir Anthony.
yeah, we'd be used to that in Philadelphia. So
Before
there's
we
some
wrap
moves that
up,
can be made. There's some teams down there in the absolute bottom of the barrel that we could probably pick some players from. So we'll see how the rest of the season plays out up to the trade deadline.
so there's a team. The thing I want to end on here. There is a team that's not quite in the bottom of the barrel who has an impact bat that could make a difference, who has really always hit well in Citizens Bank Park, that some fan pages and some podcasts have been clamoring for. So what do you think about adding a guy like what's his name? Like Rhys Hoskins?
That'd be fun. I don't think he's been the best this year. I was looking up
He has
Felix Batista's Savant page. Actually, Rhys Hoskins' batting run value is actually way higher than I thought it was.
He's had
I
a
don't
really
follow
good May.
I gotta shout out Bryce though. Bryce said he'd be willing to move back out into the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
Something Rafael Devers could never think of at this point.
I'm so glad he's not a Philly.
That's crazy talk, but
what a loser.
It's a right-handed power bat. I mean, this city would welcome him back with open arms. It would be absolutely incredible. I remember back in the day when his wife was buying beer for literally everybody.
Jamie's a treasure.
The run. They're always welcome in this city. They're legends. So I would love a reunion. I mean, it fits because Bryce go back out the outfield. I mean, he's really good defensively at first base, but if you need that power surge from Rhys, maybe I'm getting a little too nostalgic here. I'd like it more than most, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, I thought it was ridiculous. So I saw one person post it, and I was like, okay, this is just like a fanboy or whatever. Like, oh, what if we going back to Rhys Hoskins? Then I saw it like 7 or 8 times. And then I saw, it might have been Phillies Nation right about it. I'll have to find out if I can properly credit who wrote it, but I think I might have been Phillies Nation. Write an article about it. And I was like, okay, maybe this is something worth my time. Maybe this is more likely than I thought it was. And I'm kind of with you. I think it'd be fun. I think the vibes in the clubhouse would be through the roof. The stadium would be more popping than it is. Obviously Rhys hits well at Citizens Bank Park. He was pretty consistently an 80 to 100 RBI guy his whole career here. But in the field, it is a little bit funky. I think Bryce would do it. I mean, he'll do anything to win. But he's a Gold Glove caliber first baseman.
He's been robbed of those too, by the way. I will say.
Yes. I love Rhys Hoskins as a Philly. I thought, he and Aaron Nola for me were like the shining light in a really dark era of Phillies baseball. But nobody, Rhys included, would tell you that he is an above average fielding first baseman. He's barely serviceable as a fielding first baseman. So, but it would be in line with the rest of the team where you lean into the bats and hope the rest takes care of itself. So I wouldn't hate it. It depends on what the cost would be.
It wouldn't be that high.
Yeah,
I don't know what his contract's looking like. I forget what.
I think he only got a 3-year, so it might be one more year of team control. I think
it was 2 in last November, so he's under control for one more after this. So
yeah,
but still, it's not. He's getting paid $17 million a year. It wouldn't cost all that much in terms of prospects heading back. So it'd be like probably like maybe a mid-level guy. Potentially a couple low ones, couple dart throws.
This is why I shouldn't be a GM, because if they hit me with one of my like AA guys who's maybe batting 7 or 8 or something, I'd be like, oh, for Rhys Hoskins, like you put him on the PJ already. I'll see him in the morning, which is why it would be a bad GM. I'm not saying that Philly should do that, but it makes it very tempting that some guy that I don't even know his name could get me one of my favorite Phillies back in CPP.
I mean, it's definitely tough to be a GM, especially when you're managing this many players. Like,
yeah,
other sports, it's different. Basketball, it's like 13 guys. Football, it's in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s in the preseason. But baseball, it's like 4 to 5 whole like teams. You gotta like manage out. So it's pretty tough. Because I agree with you. I would send a prospect out. Mid-level guy that's probably, there's some disaster stories of this. They're pretty well documented throughout history. Looking at Fernando Tatis and those guys, Trey Turner was one of these guys as well. He was I remember, I forget what deal it was. He was a player to be named later when he headed to Washington from San Diego.
Yeah.
I don't remember what deal that was.
But then there's the flip side of that too, where you look at, I think it was the Luzardo deal. The guys that we sent to the Marlins, both of them, one's in single A, the other one's hurt in single A. So it's a crapshoot with prospect trading. I mean, unless your guy's a stud AA pitcher or a proven AAA commodity, everybody's guessing.
Yeah, that's the problem with knowing who to send out and knowing who to keep. There's number one prospects every year that never pan out, never, turn into much. And then there's guys who fast track to the majors, like a Bryce Harper. Paul Skeens is another guy where you just know that he's the guy. He's going to change your franchise, and you just try to get him up as quick as possible.
Yeah, and those guys, I agree, are untouchable. But when we're talking in a situation like this where it's Reese, and, they're going to cost you a mid-level prospect who nobody knows what they're going to be.
Maybe, not even. I mean, it's not like the Brewers are contending for much. The Cubs have them lapped already, so.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, I'm not saying it's smart baseball. I'm not even saying that the Phillies are considering it. I've heard enough people report it that it was worth me bringing up, and I would personally do it, but I'm also not a professional at roster building. I'm very much, anybody who's watched this podcast enough knows where Ryan and I come from. I am 1,000% a ball watcher, vibes guy, that boy nice kind of guy. So I'm the person that makes those impulsive moves. Ryan is the more analytical of the two of us. So just so you know where I'm coming from here.
I like that we have different views because it works out so well when we talk about it because, a lot of people fall on either side of the aisle. There's a lot of vibes watchers, which sometimes I turn into a vibes watcher myself. And then there's the analytical side where, that move might be terrible and you don't want to do it. But for minor league prospects not named Aiden Miller, Curtis Painter, or Andrew Painter, I forget who I'm confusing at this point. I think I was thinking of Curtis Granderson way back in the day. But
yeah, Andrew Painter, Mick Abel, Crawford, and Aiden Miller would probably be your, this has got to change my franchise, guys. If we're going to move them, this is a surefire thing, gets us closer to a World Series.
Yeah, and then there's a couple other guys. I mean, Otto Kemp is the guy that everyone's clamoring for. He is 26 years old, but still, he could be like a utility kind of guy. And he's been raking,
apparently. Yeah.
He's been raking down there. So, I mean, I wouldn't stop. He might be the next Edmundo Sosa. I mean, I don't know if he's going to hit as well as him, but that kind of feels like where Otto Kemp, his ceiling lands.
Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, we got to stop this podcast at some point, but, we're not going to be able to stash Edmundo Sosa as a utility guy forever. At some point, someone's going to look at him and go, that is an everyday second baseman or shortstop. And they're 100% correct. He is. We just happen to do a spectacular deal in retrospect with the Cardinals to land him.
Yeah, there's some trades that we should look back on fondly. I mean, Dombrowski, in terms of trades, he hasn't done, like I said, that big super splash yet. I don't think ownership is allowing him to. But the trades that he has made, of course, Estevez, that has just a sour ending, but he was good up until the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
So even though he was costly, he still paid off and, until the Lindor Grand Slam, which don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But then there's also Luzardo, there's Sosa. There's these guys that have panned out in a big way, and the Phillies wouldn't be here if, he didn't make these trades.
Yeah, those two I would say, are his crown jewel, really. I mean, Sosa, with the amount of team control that we got him for the amount of money we're paying, I mean, he's outplayed his contract 4 times over. When we got him from St. Louis, he was a guy who flirted with the major league roster there. Remember, he couldn't hit. That was St. Louis's beef with him. It was he can't really hit. He's a speedster. He was a fielding ace, which he's been a good field with the Phillies. I wouldn't say he's an ace, but man, can he hit as a Philly. Luzardo, all-time steal. Like I said, 2 guys in single A who are stinking it up in single A for whatever it's worth for a guy who's a Cy Young front runner.
One was a high tier prospect, if I'm not mistaken. He was.
He was
6th or 7th in our system, but he was blocked. So
yeah, and it hasn't like you and I just said it with these guys who are in single and double A. They can be top tier prospects, but they haven't proven anything yet. And he was one that had we overvalued, you don't have arguably the ace of your staff, which is crazy. I would put the Ohapi Marsh trade in the same category as Estevez. I realize that Ohapi's hitting really well, and with the Angels, he is a god-awful fielding catcher. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows like Phillies Twitter would want you to believe. He doesn't call a great game. He's not a good fielding catcher behind the plate. I realize right now, JT can't hit worth a damn, but no one would tell you that he's not a great catcher behind the plate. I mean, the starters love him. You can't run on him. So, and it gave us exactly what we needed. Marsh isn't a stud center fielder, but think of how bad things get behind him. We needed a center fielder. They brought us a serviceable center fielder. And that one kind of worked out for both sides.
Yeah, it feels like a push. But speaking on Real Muto, was it Nola that has the crazy splits between him and Marchand when Marchand calls his game?
Well,
his ERA is like way higher than what it is with Real Muto. I believe it's Nola.
It was, yeah. Now the problem with that was it looked like it was an easy fix, just have Nola throw to Real Muto all the time. Then he threw to Real Muto and got absolutely fucking shelled.
That's all.
So then people were like, all right, well, this might just be Nola, actually.
All right, it's odd year, Nola. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, everyday Mets. I don't know what that means. The Mets open season on the Phillies batters. I don't think there's a question right now as to whose rotation's better. I mean, obviously the Mets do come into CBP and cause problems. I'm not going to say that they don't, and we can't really win in Citi Field either. I'm just not sure exactly what point you're trying to make.
Yeah, I don't know what point he's trying to make, but I will say, just to add on to that Juan Soto is having one of the unluckiest seasons I've ever seen anyone have.
I mean,
he's hitting what's he hitting right now? It's really low, but his expected batting average is a couple of points higher. Yeah, he's hitting 224 right now, but his expected batting average is in the 300s. It's honestly one of the craziest things I've ever seen. But
it's one of the unlucky seasons of all time. But all right, we got to cut this thing off at some point. We're at 43 minutes here.
Whoops.
It's a great episode. Thank you everybody who actually wrote in. I'm going to start doing this more often because that was a lot more fun than just Ryan and I talking into the void. But until next Thursday, I'm Brandon. He's Ryan. This is the Patson Report. We'll see you later.